What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Roxette, as well as a very sleepy Luca. And we're continuing with the final few tracks of Have a Nice Day 1999. And once again, there are some bonus tunes in this folder that we'll go through after the album proper. But the next track is Staring at the Ground, which sounds like someone who's either immersed in a mental process, maybe a daydream, someone who's unable to focus on their surroundings, or at least someone who's not seeing what they are literally looking at. Now, of course, you could stare at the ground for a more practical reason, and you could, I suppose, be unbalanced or feeling dizzy such that you're trying to get your bearings. But I'm guessing this has a more figurative or metaphorical meaning, someone who's looking past or in their mind rather than with their eyes. So I do wonder what would lead someone to feel that way. Of course, if someone was shell-shocked in an emotional sense, they might have that metaphorical thousand-yard stare. But yes, it's a very descriptive and evocative phrase, but of course, within a given narrative, it might mean different things. I'll try to see what I can catch on a first listen. This is Roxette. The track is Staring at the Ground, and is it the third to last tune? I'm not certain about that. It's either the second to last or the third to last tune on their 1999 album, Have a Nice Day. Shorter one. I didn't think it was going to fade there. So sonically, that's crazy. It's a mixture of more electronic sounds and then more acoustic sounds. So it feels a bit folk pop, but also still a bit synth rock. And I do believe we heard both an acoustic guitar and an electric guitar, as well as some chimes and presumably keyboard layers that gave it a, again, complicated type of musical atmosphere. Lyrically, I'm fascinated because at first I wondered if I realize, you could stare at the ground if you were a bit embarrassed and didn't really know what to say, and, eye contact was a bit intense and maybe felt pressurized or otherwise uncomfortable. But then it sounds like she's saying, she wishes she could bring spring across town to his door, and, what do I have to do to make you happy, or what can I do? So it sounds like she wants this to be a good connection and to have a good situation with this other person, presumably a relationship. But if you're saying those things, it suggests that there's something not working, there's some asymmetry or disconnect, and you're unable to understand or articulate a solution to bring everything into a more emotional harmony. So, yeah, the attitude seems to be a very positive one, and someone reaching out to the other person. And then I wonder, with Pear singing the same line, seemingly with like a filter over his voice and more in the background, if that's the other person saying the same thing. So maybe it's not that they had some problem or an argument, it's more like they can't quite make the connection naturally, or they're in a situation where what feels possible is currently unobtainable because there's, again, an inability to synchronize in a certain way. So either way, it feels like there's a positive will and desire, but the implications of some of the lines suggest that right now it's not perfectly harmonious or working. So yeah, ultimately I still don't quite know the essence of the phrase staring at the ground, but it feels like an emotional appeal, a desire to express the sentiment that, hey, this isn't not working because of intent, or it's not my purpose to make you feel bad or to have it be stormy or rainy, metaphorically or otherwise, in your life. So yeah, it's a really interesting one, and again, maybe there's some lines here I'm missing which would provide a bit more clarity, including for the title phrase itself. But yes, it seemed like someone reaching out and trying to facilitate or repair a connection that is currently not the conduit it could be. But I do enjoy the harmonica. I was not expecting that, and again, that maybe more than any other element, even more than the acoustic guitar, gave it that folk pop type of feel and almost like a bluesy type of atmosphere. But there are other moments where it felt a bit more typical Roxette, with a louder guitar and a synth rock atmosphere overall. So yes, a cool one that I'm curious about. I feel like it was maybe a bit short. As I said, I was surprised when it faded. Yeah, almost 3 minutes, but still slightly less than that. So definitely on the shorter end, and especially for an album track. If it's a B-side or especially like a demo, you can say, okay, well, clearly this was a song in development, or clearly this was sort of a an experiment or a throw-on tune where, it wasn't this long, multi-chorus narrative, but just a vibe tune or a song that, was short and to the point. But yes, for an album track, it does feel a little short, which isn't really a criticism in as much as I enjoyed what I heard. I just maybe wanted a little bit more of it. So in any case, let me know what you think, and Luca will continue dreaming and sleeping through all of it. I will see you next time. Peace.